it's just a huge honor today to be podcast interviewing Nico Dato all the way from Lehigh, Utah, which is about 20 miles south of Salt Lake City. I'm so impressed with if you're in dentistry. I mean, they call it the Silicon Valley for everything on your iPhone, but they call it, what do they call it? The slope.
Silicon Slopes, yeah.
Silicon Slopes.
You got it.
And Silicon Slopes is really huge. I mean, it's a massive tech outbreak. I mean, look in dentistry. Now we got Podium. You guys have been there for several years. Weave, Dentrix, Dental Intel, Curve, Dental Demographics, Arrowhead Dental Laboratory, Ultradent. I mean, that is just, they could rename Utah Dental Land. How long have you been with Podium?
So I've been with Podium a little over 2 years. And when I joined, there was maybe 7 people. So we're only about a 3-year-old company. And today we're a little over 200 people.
Holy gamoly.
Yeah.
So, just so my homies know, this isn't a commercial. You didn't call me. I called you. I like to do product profiles. I think it comes from when I was a little kid. I grew up with 5 sisters. My little brother wasn't born until I was out of high school. And when we go on vacations, my dad always liked to stop at where things are made. I mean, we saw Budweiser, Coors. Like, you wouldn't know this about Coors, but they make every aspect of the bottle, the glass. I mean, it's a ranch. And we bought a station wagon one time, and we drove up to Detroit and watched it made from start to finish. And whenever I was lecturing over the years, I stopped by all the dental companies, and I think it was very, probably from my childhood, but it's a very rewarding experience. And so these guys are driving to work right now, and they probably don't know what even Podium is. And here you've gone from 0 to 200 employees. That's just monster. So tell us just from the beginning, what is Podium?
Yeah.
And why would you move from Dallas that had an NFL football team to Utah, which has no NFL?
We have no NFL, but we have the Utah Jazz. That's all that matters. So
that's all that matters.
Yeah, pretty much everyone here is diehard Utah fans, Utah Jazz fans. So, but no, it's a great question. So really, Podium, where we kind of started out is we just help dentists and really any local business get reviews on the sites that matter most, right? So a lot of cases that was Google or Facebook or Health Grades. And during that time, we've actually kind of transitioned a little bit where the products become more mature, and we're actually helping these local businesses power all of the interactions between the business and the consumer. Or like in the dentist's scenario, it'd be the practice and the patient. So it could be anything centered around reviews or just general customer interaction, like appointment reminders or general communication. Whatever that is, that's just what we're out to power, is that communication between the two parties.
And what percent of your clients is dental?
That's a great question. We're probably, I hate to spout off a number, but that's our original vertical that we got into. And I would guess we're probably in the 20 to 30% range, are dentists.
And what would be after that? What would come after that?
We sell a lot of car dealerships. And then past that, it's anything you can think of that has a brick and mortar or physical location.
A lot of dental companies like Patterson and Shine, after they want to grow more, they usually always go to vet. I noticed that trend.
Yeah.
You notice that?
Yeah.
Veterinarian is a very similar business to dentistry. It's a standalone. It's an owner-operated.
Vets like that. Optometry's like that. There's a few that are very, very similar.
So who's the founder of this? Whose great idea was this?
Yeah, good question. So we have 2 co-founders. Eric Ray, who's now our CEO, and one of our co-founders, and then Dennis Steele, who is our chief strategy officer. So basically the story is these 2 were buddies back in college at BYU. Eric had been in Austria working for one of the governmental agencies out there as a computer programmer. Dennis was back here doing PR. They ended up getting together because Eric's dad actually owned a tire shop up in Alberta. And his dad said, "Hey, I know I'm doing a good job. I know my customers like me. They're happy, but I just cannot seem to get reviews online, and that seems to be what everyone's looking at." So they got together, created a software company, and that's basically what Podium is today.
So how much does it cost? Go Dentistry Uncensored. What does this cost? All that stuff.
Yeah. So generally, what you're looking at is about $2.99 a month, and that's basically the entire platform for the $2.99. We don't have any tiers where you're only getting specific access to a few things, depending on what you pay. We basically give you unlimited access, as many users within the system as you'd like. We do integrate into a lot of the major systems like Dentrix or EagleSoft or a lot of the DMSs that a lot of the dentists actually use today. And yeah, for that flat fee, basically they can use Podium as much or as often as they'd like.
So if they follow me on Twitter, so they're driving right now. It's hard to take notes, so I'm just gonna retweet your.
Yep, that's it. Yeah, they may not be there yet. Yeah. Yep. 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 I was born in '89. There you go. Yeah. 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 Yeah, that's a good question. So we actually had that same theory. Probably when was it? I think it was in January. We said, "Hey, is this something that just millennials are using?" We actually went out and surveyed a few thousand U.S. consumers, and what we actually found is reviews are actually growing as far as the trend goes for just anyone from a broad consumer standpoint who use reviews to actually make a purchase decision. So I think that the gut feeling for a lot of people is, hey, I have an older patient base. They're not going to do this. The truth of the matter is it's not just millennials anymore. It's everyone who simply types in any kind of Google search query, or Bing or whatever, because those reviews are sitting front and prominent, and people can see them, they can use them. I think it's a common misconception that a lot of people have, and it really, if you use a search engine, you're seeing these reviews, right? It doesn't need to even just be on Yelp. Google has those reviews sitting front and center. Facebook's reviews are front and center. Even if I went and searched out a dental practice, those health grade reviews could actually be sitting on that first page of Google. So really, it's anyone who's using the internet can actually be exposed to these reviews, rather than maybe a few years ago, like you're saying, you might just have to go use like a Yelp app or a Google app or Facebook app. Now they're front and center for everyone to see. Doubtful. Yeah. 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 I mean, I don't have any of like their daily or monthly active user numbers or anything, obviously, at my disposal, but I would imagine Snapchat's prominent around the world. It's probably very focused on the US as well. Yelp is definitely very, very popular in the US, right? And it's popular around a few core types of businesses, like restaurants, very popular. Dental practices, it may not be as popular. It also matters as far as where you're at geographically within the US. So what we found is even if you're a dental practice and you're in California, it could matter more to your practice than, say, a dental practice here in Utah, right? So it really does kind of matter where you're at geographically, I think. As far as Google and Facebook go, they are obviously everywhere, right? They're everywhere. People are using that service everywhere. The reviews themselves are actually starting to gain a ton of steam elsewhere as well. But the U.S. has kind of led that charge for reviews on Google, Facebook, or whatever have you, and you're starting to see the adoption in other countries happen a lot more quickly as well. But yeah, I think that's somewhat of a fair statement.
So what if? if some young kid was in school and they were say they're working somewhere and they wanted, and you work with all the practice management software systems.
Yep.
Which one do you think any of them are better? Do you like any of them more than the others?
I don't spend enough time day in and day out in any to probably make an educated comment there. But I mean, there's obviously those that kind of excel as far as market share goes. But what's kind of cool that we're seeing, and we have a full integrations team where their full job is to actually work with these DMSs. The thing that I hear over and over again is it's amazing to see these new DMSs that are popping up and the features that they're actually creating and providing
But say what
haven't
DMS
been
is.
seen before.
They might not know what a DMS is.
Like a dental practice or a dental management system or a practice management system. Just whatever system you're using to track and manage your patients. And we may call it differently here than what someone else calls it. But yeah, it's like your Dentrix or your EagleSoft or any of those softwares that are helping track and manage your patients.
So I want to tell you what I feel is the exact problem in dentistry, and then
Sure.
I want you to tell me how Podium solves it. So this is what I truly believe.
Yeah.
10 people have to land on your website for 1 to convert and call.
Yep.
3 people have to call before your receptionist can convert 1 to come in.
Mm-hmm.
3 people have to come in with a cavity before you can convert 1 to drill, fill, and bill. So to have $1 of dentistry done, you need 3 people in your chair, which came from 3 people had to call, so now we're at 9. And then you had to have 10 for each one of those, so you had to 90 on the website. And then that sinks down to that $675,000 a year practice, guys taking home $145,000. Now let's go out the other end. Yep. The other end is that by the time they get to 5,000 charts, 4,000 of them are gone, and they're not gone because you got a DUI and your picture is on the front page of the paper and the mayor kicked you out of church. They just slipped through the cracks. I mean, so your hygienist sees 8 people that day, and she only scheduled 6 for a recall. So you just lost 25% of that practice. I mean, so what do you specifically do for that funnel of taking 90 people to get 1 in and 4 out of 5 falling out the back door?
That's a really good question, and I got to say that's maybe one of the most thoughtful funnels I've ever heard in the practice example. But yeah, I mean, here's a lot of the issue is a lot of dentists are struggling to just attract and acquire new patients, right? Net new patients, and they may be visiting the website, they may be coming through that website, but a lot of them are actually just searching on Google. In fact, near me searches, and by near me, I mean like someone searching dentist near me or where to get my teeth cleaned near me or whatever, right? Or in my area in Salt Lake City. Those doubled just in 2015 alone. And some of the stats that we're hearing that hopefully will be released soon are even more aggressive, meaning consumers are just becoming more and more lazy. And I know I'm guilty of it to where I'm just typing dentist near me, and whatever's popping up, those are the people that I'm going to engage with. So the first thing you need to do to even attract net new is you need to be prominent in these search engines. If you're not, it's going to be really, really difficult to attract net new customers. You can do all the advertising in the world. That will help. But where you're going to get the most bang for your buck is being visible on the search engine. Then the next thing that we see, and this really kind of falls in line with what you're talking about as far as the funnel goes, is a lot of these practices are failing to just keep the interaction up and happening with a lot of their patients. So like you said, I have 8 patients that come in. I only schedule 6 for recall. I just lost 25% of my base. Why is that, right? Is it because the consumer hates how you're trying to schedule appointments? Do they not know their calendar out 6 months? Do they not even want to take a guess? What are the reasonings? And the smartest practices we're actually seeing are the ones that are figuring out, hey, I know a lot of this is a communication problem, so I'm going to figure out how, once they're in the door, I can keep them engaged to keep them coming back, right? And oftentimes, a phone call is not going to do it. An email is not going to do it. Is a text message going to do it? I don't know. They're just figuring out creative ways that works for their practices to be able to keep the bottom of the bucket, if you will, from falling out.
Interesting. It's communication. Doesn't matter if you're talking to your kids, your wife, your family, your business, your customers. I mean, the most important thing on this entire planet is communicating with your fellow monkeys.
Well, and here's the problem too is say I schedule a cleaning for 3 months out or 6 months out, and then all of a sudden I get a random phone call from a number I'm not familiar with. I may just let that go to voicemail, right? And then once I get that voicemail, I may forget to even call them back, or I need to reschedule. And when I try to call them back, the practice may be closed after 5. That's what time I get off of work. That's when I free up. So all of a sudden there's this disconnect of information or communication where the patient actually probably wants to go back to that practice, but it's just really difficult. And I think what a lot of practices that we talk to are realizing is, hey, the types of communication channels that I was using and the ways that I communicated just aren't working anymore. They work for a segment of my patients, but there's this whole other segment that it is increasingly difficult to actually make contact and get accomplished what I need to get accomplished to get them back into my practice.
Yeah, I agree. 30 years of talking to patients, the last guy was always fine. They just fell through the cracks. They moved, something changed, they forgot the number, they don't remember if they were supposed to go back. I mean, it was just it's hardly ever, no, that is a horrible man and no one should go there. I mean, that
yeah, exactly.
That comes up like once a decade.
It's rare.
Yeah,
it's funny. It's funny. We hear from a ton of our customers too. They just say, hey, one of the biggest issues I'm having is if we call to remind them about an appointment and they need to reschedule, they can't get back in touch with us during business hours. And then after like maybe a week of trying or remembering to call that practice back, they just forget and they fall through the cracks. So I think you're 100% spot on that it's usually not a service issue. It's a communication issue.
So this dentist pays $299 a month, and then how does he learn how this all works? How does he get this implemented? How does he get his staff on board?
Yeah. So basically we'll do an implementation call where if you want to integrate it with one of your existing softwares like a Dentrix, we can help you get it integrated. So a lot of it's actually automatic. And we'll do like a 30-minute or an hour training to get everyone onboarded onto the software, get you trained. And then from there, we obviously have a customer support team that can help with any questions that arise. But to be quite honest, people get up and running on our system in no time at all. It's pretty simple. It's pretty intuitive. The technology on the back end is a little bit more complicated, but from a usability standpoint, it's really, really simple to use.
So this is to go to 200 employees, I mean, that's a monster company.
Yeah, it's getting crazy.
I mean, that is so what are you guys going to do, an IPO or what is it? Or will it be merger and acquisition, or where are you thinking?
Hey, I wish I knew the answer to that. So I think right now our core focus is to continue just building an awesome product that's usable for everyone. We just barely raised a Series A of financing, $32 million from Excel, who's famously one of the first investors in Facebook, Google Ventures, Summit Partners, and really we're just going to use that money to help us grow and make our product even better. So I don't think there's really any end goal at this point. We just kind of want to keep doing what we're doing, and I think everyone here is having a lot of fun.
If you could pick for your dental office 10 good reviews on Facebook, or 10 on Google, or 10 on Yelp, put them in priority. Which ones do you think are better from top to bottom?
Google, Facebook, then Yelp, and I'll tell you why. Google is going to have the most impact on local search. So when someone types in dentist near me or whatever else, those reviews can actually impact where a business is appearing in local search. And they're the most prominent. Again, like I really do. Anyone listening or you yourself, I would just go Google a dental practice, and you'll see that those reviews are sitting front and center on that search page. So Google, I will always say, is king. You definitely do not want to neglect that space. Now, aside from that, Facebook's another really important one. It's growing in popularity. I would not neglect Facebook whatsoever. Those reviews can still appear in Google search results. They're still very prominent. Facebook's obviously one of the most massive platforms in the world. I think last time I checked, they have like 1 billion monthly active users or something. Hopefully I didn't botch that number. But Facebook is definitely very important. It's very visible. People are seeing businesses there, so I would not neglect that. And then lastly, Yelp. I think Yelp's a very important platform. It's a great platform. They're a good company. the thing that with Yelp that you want to make sure that you're aware of is it matching what your patients are searching for in relation to your business? Meaning, are they using Yelp to find a dentist, or are they using Yelp to find a restaurant? And as I mentioned earlier, I think it really matters where you're at geographically, and you're going to have to make that decision on a case-by-case basis. But Yelp's still important. You just need to understand if it's important for your business.
But I have to tell you that if you go to Dental Town and you do, there's a 250,000 dentists posted 5 million times. I typed in Podium.
Yep.
And just great reviews, I mean, everybody just says great things about you.
Cool.
I always do the
appreciate
same.
That.
And I wish you'd go in there and post on them. I really wish you would.
Yeah.
I think that'd be amazing marketing for you guys. But if I did the same for Yelp, oh my God, it'd be 20 threads just throwing them under a bus. I mean,
yeah.
You're not going to find a happy thread of people talking about Yelp.
Yeah, I mean, here's the hard thing. So we're partners with Yelp. We actually really like Yelp's mission. The hard thing is I think what it goes back to as far as it means different things for different industries, right? And dental just may be one of those industries that Yelp just isn't as effective for them. And so they may be better off trying to invest time in Google. And those reviews are still going to happen in Yelp. But in a lot of cases, consumers are not finding those practices on Yelp. But overall, their mission is a really good mission. They're trying to just simply connect local businesses and consumers. And for some verticals, Yelp that's their bread and butter. That's their everything. And for some, it's not. So I think it's really case by case basis. But yeah, that's unfortunate that there's those types of threads on Dental Town about Yelp, because really what they're trying to do is good. I think just by vertical, it's tough to really make it work for every single vertical at this point.
So basically, everything you do falls under the category online reputation management. Would you say that?
Yeah. So where we used to be was really focused on online reputation management. Where we've actually transitioned is into customer interaction. And by customer interaction, that encompasses online reputation management. It also encompasses just basic customer communication and messaging. Really, the idea is all these interactions that are happening between businesses and consumers, we can power those. So yeah, a lot of people still see us as a reputation management company. That's just fine. We feel like we're the best in the world at helping generate reviews on the sites that matter most. So I'm totally fine having that tied to us. But what we've kind of evolved into, and I think where everyone gets really bullish on Podium, is we're actually kind of charging a new way as far as how these businesses and consumers can connect and communicate.
That is amazing. I also like your demo. You might want to put your demo at the end of this podcast.
I should. Yeah. Is there one sitting on Dental Town? Is that where you saw it?
No, on your mobile app.
Oh, on the website. Cool.
Yeah, but you got it really nice. By the way, his website is Podium, PODIUM.com. So tell us where that name came from. That's a big thing coming up with a name, Podium.
It is a tough one. So we kind of knew that we were going to go in this direction of customer interaction, right? We knew that, hey, we want these businesses to be able to basically stand tall, be visible, and communicate with each and every consumer or patient. And we felt that Podium was really fitting, right? As a business is sitting there at a podium and they're able to communicate with all these consumers out there. So it's a good question. I haven't actually been asked that, but we feel like it's a really fitting name for where our product's at today and especially where we're heading.
So is there like a dental mafia in you two? I mean, are there any companies that you hang out with more than the others, like we, Dentrix, Dental Intel, Curve, Dental? Are there any that is it a fun dental community out there?
Yeah, it's a really fun dental community. We're actually in the same business park as Weave. We used to be in the same building, so we know Weave relatively well. We also went to something called Y Combinator last year, which is kind of this accelerator for software companies. Airbnb, Dropbox, a few other companies went through it. We went through it, and Weave went through it a few years ago. So we've got close relationships with them, and then obviously we've got Dentrix and Shine, and some of Shine. Dentrix mainly just right down the street. So we keep in close contact with a lot of those guys.
Is Weave a competitor of yours?
So Weave, we do not consider a competitor. They're doing something really awesome as far as VoIP goes, and the basically the inbound calls and outbound calls syncing with the practice management systems. They do have components that are very similar, but no, we're very friendly to Weave. We don't see them as competitors.
Well, it's so funny because you're a businessman, so you call them inbound calls, yet the dentist calls her a receptionist or the front desk. He names her after a piece of furniture when every single business takes inbound calls. They might call it inbound calls, outbound calls. Some call it inbound sales and marketing. I mean, and every company takes their inbound calls as serious as a heart attack, except for dentistry. Dentistry
really?
is just like, the stats on that are crazy. So there's 168 hours in a week. They think half the incoming calls come in when the doctor's office closed. I mean, they're only open Monday through Thursday, 8 to noon, and they turn their phones off at noon. And so half the calls come in when they're not open, and then half the calls that come in when they're open go to voicemail. And then half the calls that leave a message on voicemail are never even listened to one time in perpetuity. You know what I mean? So
that's tough.
So if you can get this dentist to quit focusing on his next bonding agent, and start focusing on some of these business things. Sometimes you can do the littlest things and have a huge consequence.
Totally, yeah. And those inbound phone calls, just like you mentioned, we love the inbound phone calls. There are people who have a ton of interest, right? And if you imagine a funnel, they are not sitting at the top of the funnel. They're way down the funnel. They're taking time out of their day to actually call you. We personally love those. I would be shocked at any business who didn't jump all over those because they seem like kind of the cream of the crop. And again, not to have a shameless plug here, but that's kind of what Podium's out to solve, right? Is if we can fix these communication channels for a lot of these businesses, ideally they're not having to worry about, hey, did I check the voicemail and call back all those inbound phone calls? Ideally, we can just make it happen through communication channels that are convenient for that business and that consumer. So it's a great point.
A lot of people are scared of switching from Cox phone system to Voip Voice over Internet protocol. Do you think the Internet is there for switching your phones to Voip or?
Yeah. That's a good question. I think it's one of those things that's business by business, right? I think the tough part is if you're on a VoIP system, your Wi-Fi goes out, your internet goes out, whatever, you just lost however many calls are coming in per hour, right? And I'm not so naive to know that either. Wi-Fi goes out, at the office or at home every once in a while, and I can only imagine being a dental practice that's getting multiple calls every single hour. So that's painful. So I think it really does depend business by business. What we've tried to do is we don't want to have to make it contingent on using VoIP or just a landline to use Podium. So we can actually make it work with both. And I think that's how a lot of companies should be looking at things is if we can make this as frictionless as possible for the dentist to switch, it's going to be beneficial for everyone. In some cases, VoIP's going to be better. In some cases, landline's going to be better. But I don't know. I kind of struggle to think that it's totally safe to make a 100% switch. But then in other cases, I'm like, it makes perfect sense to switch, right? So I think it's really business by business.
What I'm wondering now, I mean, everything is moving so fast now. I mean, when I got to school, they didn't even have ATM machines. I mean, when I was in high school, the greatest technological company of all time was the garage door opener.
Yeah.
I thought that was the bomb. But I bet it won't be long before there's dental artificial intelligence.
Yeah, you're probably right. There's been a lot of splash in a lot of waves being made in the last 1 or 2 years even around AI or artificial intelligence, or kind of the term that you hear a lot lately is chatbots, which is a little bit different than artificial intelligence. But I think it'll be really interesting. I think for a lot of businesses, it'll be really, really beneficial, right? As long as you can make it very personal and it feels like it's not just a robot on the other end. It can speed up a lot of things for a lot of people and be beneficial for both sides. It's interesting.
Yeah, and then there's another thing you talk about, review sites that matter like Google, Facebook, but then you mentioned health grades. I hadn't heard of that one. You said Google, Facebook, health grades. What's health grades?
Yeah, so Health Grades is another site that basically is a review site. You can collect reviews there. How we call it internally at Podium is these are all listings sites. So They're a listing site, meaning you can actually go claim your own page for your business, put your hours on there, your address, your phone number, which, by the way, helps impact local SEO. And then aside from that, you can actually collect reviews on there, and it's a nice place to collect reviews, and a lot of times they'll show up in search results. So yeah, I would definitely not neglect some of these industry specific sites like Healthgrades.
So you call it a listing site?
Yeah.
And Healthgrades
Yep.
is for dentistry. What are there any other listing sites that are prominent in dentistry?
Yeah, so there's sites like ZocDoc, and Healthgrades is another big one, and there's probably a few others that I'm blanking on right now. But we actually have a few resources on our website, and it's just blog.podium.com. I would recommend going there. We basically list out the top sites that each business should be focused on by vertical. So for dentists, we actually name all those lists on one of those blog posts. And we recommend that you go get those filled out, get your name on there, make sure everything's consistent. A lot of the listeners probably heard of NAP, which is name, address, and phone number. And basically in all of these listings, you need to make sure that those are all 100% consistent, meaning if your address is like 1200 East, decide if it's going to be East spelled out, if it's going to be just E, if it's going to be E with a period. Those things matter. But yeah, there's a list of these sites that you want to go get filled out and optimized, and in some cases collect reviews on if they allow it. And it really, really, really can help impact this local SEO. And then what it also does is, depending on where they land online, whatever their search query may be, they may fall on Healthgrades, right, before they fall on Facebook. And if you have an accurate representation of your business there with like 4 stars and there's great comments saying how wonderful your service was, the odds of them actually visiting your business and kind of entering that funnel that you talked about earlier are a lot higher.
Yeah, and whatever you do, don't name your child the second. My dad was Howard Eugene Farran the first, and I'm the second. That is, I mean, the guy has been dead since 1999, and it's still an issue. I had to go down to the government, and for something I forgot they needed an original Social Security. And she said, she thought I was my dad. I said, no, I'm 54. Do I look like my dad? Anyway, I had to mail off to Kansas to get the actual form.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then airline tickets. I mean, it happens about once a decade where someone will forget, the travel agency or my team or whatever, to add the Roman numeral 2, and then I'm sitting there going through security, and they say, well, no, this is not your ticket. You're Howard Eugene Farran II. And this ticket's just for Howard. And it's like, oh my God.
So you have the exact same name, just second on the very end.
Yeah, Roman numeral 2. You go. 2 once. Wow. And it's so you're talking about the East being an E, W, or an East.
Make sure it's all consistent. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, those little details are and it's because the computer it, as of now doesn't think. I mean, like if I just told you to make a sandwich, you just grab 2 pieces of bread and start throwing peanut butter on one and jelly on the other. But that computer's got to say, okay, there's 4 sides, side A, B, C, D. Which side do you want the peanut butter on, A, B, C, or D? I mean, it's so technical that when it something like that happens, it really does.
Yeah, and here's the thing: is Google specifically, and I'm sure Bing and all these other sites, DuckDuckGo, all of them are probably the same. But what they're really focused on is making sure that they're providing a great experience for that searcher. And if they're not doing that, if they're serving up results like you're talking about with the wrong name or the wrong address or whatever, consumers are going to be ticked at Google, probably not as much as your business, could be ticked at both. So it is important to have these things filled out and have them optimized. It's maybe one of the biggest mistakes we see dentists make is they just say, hey, I got my Google listing, I got my Facebook listing, I got my Yelp listing, I'm good. And in fact, that's not the case. There's probably 50 or 60 other sites that we would recommend you go actually fill out and make consistent. And out of those 60 sites, there's probably another 10 that warrant you actually going and collecting reviews on those sites.
But if I go to podium.com, where do I find that list of listing companies?
Yeah, so if you go to podium.com, I think in the upper right-hand corner, there's going to be a link that says blog. And if you click on that,
okay. Oh, so that... Now,
you'll head over to our blog.
The hamburger icon?
Hamburger icon. What do you mean?
That icon that it looks like a Big Mac or.
Oh yeah. So if
The,
you're on your phone, yeah, click that. Yep.
but is it technically called the hamburger icon?
Hey, we're gonna go with that. That sounds good to me.
Have you heard
Actually,
that?
if you
Yeah.
look at our logo, it kind of looks similar to the white lines in our logo, which I just realized the other day, which is kind of funny.
Well, what's kind of funny is the stuff like that happens. Like for a long time,
Yep.
I never saw those three lines there, and then
Yeah.
then it was coming to my own Dental Town app. My programmer's yelling, blah 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 blah, and it's like, and then it's so funny because then when they show us something, you'd say to yourself, well, how could I look at that 4 times a day the
Yeah.
last 2 months and never saw that? And it's like, yeah, it's been up there for
Hey,
three
I'm
months, and you're like, really? It's amazing how that mind works.
I'm
So,
fine calling it the hamburger icon. I like that.
yeah, it does. It looks just like a Big Mac,
Yeah.
gosh, I can't think of anything else. I'm not smart enough to ask you any more questions. Did I miss any questions that I should have been smart enough to ask?
Hey, no, I think you did a good job. I think you're not giving yourself enough credit.
Think it was a good job. Think we covered it all.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
if someone just wants to talk to you, Nico, or what? Do they just go to the website and fill out a deal? Do you give out your email?
Yeah. I'm happy to give out my email. My email is just Nico, Nico, at podium.com. Feel free to shoot me an email with any questions you have related to marketing, local SEO, reviews, anything. Or if you're just interested in the product, I'm happy to help you there. I do keep in contact with probably 15 to 20 dentists on a regular basis, and we're always talking about general marketing and really online marketing. So I'm happy to pull you into the loop, and
Well,
I
I
love
wish you'd
chatting.
post those thoughts on Dental Town.
I need to. I need to. I actually have an account. I used to be super active. I think the last time I posted was maybe like 2 months ago, but I need to hop back on.
And that is an interesting. I mean, Nico Dato. That could be a fashion club. I mean, it's only 8 letters, two strong sounds. I mean, Nico Dato. That almost thinks that that's some kind of Hollywood name. That you're really John Tyler Smith, and you
Yeah,
went
exactly.
to the big city and changed your name from Nico Dato. That is a cool name.
Kudos to my parents, I guess. But
Kudos to your
yeah,
parents.
yeah,
All right. Well,
exactly.
hey, this was pretty much selfish having you come on today for me because I wanted to know more about your company. So that's why I called you because I was looking at it like I want to hear more of that. So thank you so much for coming
Hey,
on my
thanks for
show
having us.
today and talking about Podium. I'm sure all the millennials already knew what was going on, and all the old farts are probably gonna have to listen to the podcast twice and figure it out. But thanks for all you do for dentistry, and good luck to everyone up there in the Silicon Slopes of Utah.
Awesome. Thanks again for having us on.
All right, Nico, have a rocking hot day.